Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Factorio tutorial. Now, today we'll be looking at some rail chain signals. I'm going to assume that you know a little bit about how, or a fair bit about how rail signals work in general, how they interact with trains, how they create blocks, and that sort of thing. And you just want to know a bit more about how chain signals work and what they're used for. And what they're used for is quite simple. They're just used for junctions, right? Now, here we have a type of junction you could have, right? You could either have it as a single lane junction or a double lane junction, doesn't really matter. I'm currently using it as for two lanes so that you have one lane for going one way, the other lane for going the other way. This is quite nice, so you don't have to worry about bypasses or anything like that. Now, this guy here, say he wants to go up north. If we enter him, right, he gets up to here, and then he'll suddenly stop because this signal here is red, right? The block following it is full. So he waits. The problem is he's now blocking the entirety, or mostly the entirety of the junction. Anyone coming up north, they'll be blocked by there, right? Of course, they'll probably be blocked by whatever's blocking him as well. But definitely anything coming south will be blocked by his cargo wagons here, and that's not going to be good at all. So this is a situation where you want some chain signals. If you were to put them right here, right, and actually all along until it's until the point where it's no longer blocking the junction, then it will check along until it gets to a regular rail signal and just pass that signal along, right? So here in this case we have a red. This copies it and becomes red. That copies and becomes red. Red all along. He gets here, says, "Oh, it's red. I'm going to wait here." That way, people can pass along north to south. And if there were like a split right here, you could have that going south to north if it were that were open to it, right? You'd still need a couple more signals though, a rail signal right here as well, because otherwise the same thing will happen. Someone comes along from the south. It gets here, oh, it's blocked. In this specific situation, no difference, but if there were a split here, right, and say he wanted to go that way, to the right, and this guy were now blocking the entire junction once again, then you'd want that guy to way back here, okay? So generally, when you have merges, that's when you want just a simple chain signal at the entrances of it. When you have splits, you get slightly more complicated situation, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, at this sort of junction, if it's just a single split off, then it's fine. But typically, you want to be using something like a roundabout like this, right? So in this case, you have trains coming along, and they can go either north, south, west, or even back east if they felt like it, and there'd be no issue, right? You can just go in a circle, and it's fine. I mean, some might say this is slightly less efficient because of you lose a bit of acceleration, I believe, when you're turning. But even so, it's quite useful for very busy junctions to keep them flowing smoothly. Now there is a problem with this, right? We got rail signals at the entrances, as you should, right? But the problem comes when, say, this guy wants to go to my station to the west, number C we'll say, or letter C rather. He gets there, no problem, keeps going, and then he gets to this, and the signal saying, "Oh, we have a train ahead, you got to stop." That's fine, prevents collisions, it's good, but he's now occupying this junction. Right, so this guy would want to go north. Oops, north I said. He'll get to the junction, and suddenly the junction's full. He'll be forced to stop and wait, right? Wait for as long as this guy's waiting, and he'll wait for as long as whatever this guy's waiting for. Could be he's out of fuel, which would be very bad, or he's waiting at a train stop unloading, or he's waiting for his own signal, whatever, right? But this could cause blockages, and say this train's holding something very important, right? I don't know. It could be bringing iron ore to smelting, although you probably want more cargoes for that. But it could be something vitally important. You don't want it delayed, and now it's being delayed for no reason, really, right? So if you were to these back to manual and back them up. All right, now if you were to use some chain signals right here, it would go along. All right, now here we're seeing a new color, blue, right? If you've used rail signals before, green, red, and yellow, right? The occasional yellow should be known to you, right? Green means go, red means stop, yellow means basically the same as red. It means stop because the next block is about to have something in it, right? But blue simply means that the rail signals you're copying, they're not all the same, right? So here you got some green, some red, and some green. So blue means check for your specific path, right? So he's going to check, goes along to here. Oh, that's reds. My exit's not clear. I'll wait here. And he's got no issue with that. He'd be waiting either way. Now this guy, he comes there. The junction is clear. He's able to go right on through, right? The whole junction is available to anyone except for people behind this guy, right? So using chain signals at each entrance to a loop junction like this, or a roundabout junction, prevents any blockages except for where it's coming from. Okay, and there's a way to prevent blockages from that direction as well, and we'll see that in a moment in our stations example. Right? If we head on over to here. Okay, now here's another kind of junction. Right, we've seen merges, we've seen roundabout junctions, and here we got a split junction. Right. And here, in general, a rail signal is not really going to help, right? So if you got a train coming along and waiting here, and another train comes along and wants to get there, if it's waiting here or here, well, the entire thing's going to be blocked anyways, right? Where a chain signal will come useful is if you have a bypass, right, or a waiting area, right? So let's put a chain signal here, and we're going to put, we'll deconstruct this guy for a moment. We're going to put, and of course he's going to continue on, a bypass right there, okay? So now we have this bypass, so that should be fine, yeah. So for example, okay, that should also be a chain actually, since there's two. There we go. All right, so now this red is telling all the way back here, right? These are all now blue, and it's saying, okay, watch out, one of these paths is blocked. So if another train comes along, we'll put our guy over here, and this guy wants to, well, we'll say he's going to A this time. He's got no issue. He comes along, goes right on through, right? Now if you got someone else, and he also wants to go to A. Oop, keep doing that. He's going to come along and he's going to stop right here because the chain signal tells him, hey, your exit is not free. If another guy wants to come, well, he now has a free passage, right? He can use this bypass, comes along here, gets this chain signal, and then checks, is my exit free? If it isn't, well, then he'll be waiting here as well. If it is, say he's going this way, he'll come along, no issue, go to the station. So this allows free passage through this area, right? Even when there's people waiting. Now, if you have as many bypasses as there are splits here, right? So if you have 3 of them, well, then you never have any issue. Well, obviously you'd have people waiting if you have that many trains, but you'll never be waiting unnecessarily, right? You'll only be waiting if your station, if your actual path is blocked up, rather than something being here and blocking up all 3 for no reason. If you want to save up on materials or, for whatever reason, you can put less, and all that'll do is it'll cause some blockages occasionally, depending on how busy these are, right? So if only 2 of them are super busy and one of them's a rare thing, right, not very prioritized, then 2 would be enough. But in general, you can just put a 3rd one and there'd be no issue. So that's for splits, right? And by the way, this is also how you would prevent blockages from all directions when you have an issue over here, right? So if you had that train there and you had a bypass around it, then the chain signals would even prevent blockages from the east, right? So that's all the uses for them, right? Now, um, there is one last position. Let me just go ahead and remove all that. There's just one last situation where you could have a chain signal needed, and that's if you like here you have like a huge gap between here and the splits. But what if, right, you had a station right after a roundabout junction like this, right? So let's go ahead and do that. I'll do a little bit more space than that. Alright, so say you got a station over here, and then it remerges. Yeah, same for the other side, doesn't really matter. And, you know, as typical for first station, you'd put some at the entrance, signals at the exits. That's fine. Right, here's your station. Could be, I don't know, iron ore, for example, depositing into a smelting area. Now, the issue arises with the fact that this is a very short span, right? If you had maybe one cargo wagon, it would fit in there. Let's see, yeah, there you go. So it would fit a train with one cargo wagon. But if you as soon as you have two cargo wagons or more, you'll have a bit of blockages inside of this junction, right? So, for example, if you had a train here depositing their iron, and another train comes along, well, he sees my exits is free. He comes along, goes through the exits, and then stops right here to wait his turn on the station, while still blocking up all of this, right? So you could get trains coming along, and now the whole junction is blocked, and you're creating a huge traffic jam. Now, the solution here, part of the solution anyways, is to put a chain signal at the exits, right? This is one of the few times you do want it at the exits, is when a train, you have less than a train length between here and the next junction. So now, when a train comes here and he sees, well, put an actual train there, right? Comes along here and he sees, okay, this is blue. Chain with blue. Oh, here's where I want to go. It's red. I'll wait here. Now at least the junction will be free, right? So trains coming along here, say from another important thing, like copper smelting. It's offloaded its stuff. It comes along. Oh, I can now go along here and head on to my mining area to load up on ore. And by the time he comes back, right, quite possible this will have gone through and that'll have deposited everything, right? It'll have cleared up a little bit. If you want to further improve this, then you could, you guessed it, put a bypass right here, right? Ideally, you could have also put multiple stations. But if you've already built it, then that would require demolishing, and it's a bit of effort. And even so, to be honest, having more than one station only really needed when you have more throughput than your smelting speed requires. So it's just easier to just put up not enough rails. Put a bypass here. I won't put it in, but you just put a bypass here with more chain signals at the exit, like as I did over there. And that way, if there's a train waiting here to get to one of the exits, right, to get here, then other trains can bypass it by going there and then continuing along. Okay, and once again, you'd want as many bypasses as there are places you need to wait for, right? So here there'd be one because it's so close, but there's no other chain signal exits, so one would be sufficient. One extra one would be sufficient. If like this were a lot closer, right? So say this were a station and you need a chain right here, well then you'd need another one, and so on as needed. So that's everything. You know, unless I've forgotten something. If you have further questions, feel free to leave a comment I'll see what I can do about further videos. I've got a few videos I think already recorded for this and other games, like I have some Minecraft stuff as well, and Heroes of the Storm. But I'll soon be getting around to uploading them. But if you have comments or requests for stuff, leave them in the comments. Like and subscribe if you liked and want more, see more of this. And I'll see you guys some other time. All right, Wander out.